I want to sit down and try to break down a whole puzzle real quick, because a lot of people are stuck on the scriptures, and then the people who don't believe in the scriptures, they stuck on what's going on in the world. So there's a lot of perception and illusion, and anytime that you're still being dumbfounded and lost little sheep and not saying to yourself, okay, you know what, these world leaders have lied to us all these years about this, and now it's coming true. Oh, dad, they call this conspiracy theory, and now it's coming true. But then when you look at your personal life, if somebody was to cheat on you, the first thing you would say to that person is, if you lied to me about this, what else have you lied to me about? If you say to your kid or your grandkid, if you lied to me about this, what else have you lied to me about? But you can't take those same attributes, amplify them, and apply them to what's going on in the world. So let me break it down to you. Now, we see that in Iraq, back then, we have the book of Gilgamesh. In the book of Gilgamesh, all right, we have the 4 kings. Now, this is a Mesopotamia scrolls and all that other stuff that they fought over, tried to keep secret, and tried to hide from everybody. All right, just like they tried to hide from everybody that, you know, George Washington, Abe Lincoln, Benjamin Franklin, all of them were from England. They were English and they were Canaanites, all right? Even Rockefeller and all of them, but you got to do the DNA and do the research, right? A lot of people won't do it. They'll just take whatever they're being taught, whether it's a lie or not, and not realizing that they're being taught a lie, and all these years everything has been a lie, so now you have to go re-educate yourself so you can do the research on everything that I'm saying. Now, Gilgamesh is a book about Gilgamesh, the king of a certain area out in the Middle East, sub-Saharan area, Syria area. Now, out there in Syria, he had everything on lockdown. So the one true God makes his appearance. Like in every religion, you'll find that the one true God always makes his appearance. After he does, something always happens, and you can tie whatever happens in those religions, those regions, out into the world, or out into the what we read in Scripture. So this guy, the one true God tells this guy in the forest that's never slept with anybody, lived in the forest with the animals and stuff, that I'm going to give you the power to kill and destroy and do anything that you want to. Once you do what you have to do for me, you will die. The guy said, okay. So as the story goes on, to make a long story short, Gilgamesh and him get together and devise this plan, and whatever the plan is, they end up killing off the Nephilim, the rest of the live physical Nephilim that were around, that you guys and everybody that the world is teaching that are giants. They weren't. They were fallen angels that actually really did exist. This is where you get the geneticists and the gene split, all right? Now, where you also get the gene split is that I posted up there the genetics that they don't teach you. Now, the stuff that I posted is stuff that they only teach in Germany. You have to order cable in Europe in order to even get some of these programs to learn this stuff. And a lot of people that are of black descent or black color or live in a certain area can't afford to learn this knowledge or order these programs over there, so they won't know. So I posted it so you will know that even in the thing it says that there was a brown-skinned, the first caveman was brown-skinned with blue eyes, and then they turned, and then that's when they started turning. Now this is 8,000 years ago, so if you have somebody of the ape man and the elephant gene and the caveman gene that apparently came from the Caucasians that mysteriously turned this, and they had blue eyes, and then that's how they turned, and then you have leprosy and all this other stuff that happened. Then you have another race over here from the fallen angels, but all of these genes match up for these one chromosome that don't exist for this one certain race. Now, and then what does that tell you? That should tell you something right there, because 8,000 years ago was around the same time as the Tower of Babel. Hello, the book of Jasher states, I shall make them as of apes and elephants. 8,000 years ago, it says it right there. So this ties in again in the scripture. The book of Gilgamesh ties in the scripture with the 4 kings, because after he killed the Nephilim, the little spirits that are around the Nephilim and the fallen angels devised a plan. The plan was to have the earth run on material things, because that's what the Nephilims did. They were guarding the cedar forests and using them as money, as merchants. Having the merchants and selling them so they can manipulate what was going on. They used the materials and the assets and the fruits of the earth to manipulate things. Once they did that, it'll tell you, all right, that that's how they did everything. So they had to teach over again. So that ties in to what goes on in history, but nobody reads it. It ties into the scripture. Now, if we want to go back even further, what nobody read is the hidden scrolls of the emerald tablets. What are the emerald tablets? Now, the emerald tablets were made up because a star or meteorite or something, they say, fell from Earth. Whatever fell, it hit so hard that they hit the sub-Saharan desert, and it created this emerald stone. Now, this emerald stone is like no other on Earth. It can't be eroded, acid, no nothing. I mean, it can't be destroyed, anything. And there's nothing like it on Earth. And what was left and what was created out of whatever fell from the heavens was made into these tablets. And there's a certain amount of tablets, and 3 of them are missing. Now, the scientists, the researchers in the world power and elite say that they're too detrimental to human beings for them to read these 3 because humans could probably destroy each other, so they kept them. So if they kept them, that means that there's something in them that they're using against us to manipulate or for their own self-gratification, which is control, greed, and power. With that being said, in these emerald tablets, they go back to Akhenaten, which it confirms what Nimrod did with the one world rule. Now, it said that he was the high star. He was created of fire and all this other stuff. We are the low star. We were created of dirt. Now, that speaks that in scripture also. All right. Then it speaks about how the signs and all this stuff that he would use are for phrases, but they wouldn't know because they open up doors and portals to other places. This is why you have Egypt full of signs that actually really mean something. All right. The pictograph stuff. Then it speaks of how he lived in heaven and he had this, and he explains his version. He calls God the good man and the Father and all this other stuff. And then with the fallen angel part, it says in the emerald tablets how the God was asleep and this, that, and the third. So in other words, the people that were the watchers, God was asleep, he wasn't paying attention. The watchers was watching, and he tricked them into doing this, that, and the third. It explains all this. So unless you read actually, and then, so if God had Moses, Ezekiel, Enoch, Daniel, he had all of these, Joshua, he had all of these prophets, okay, and many, many more that I'm not speaking of, come to heaven, he showed him stuff and all this other stuff, and he talked with them. What makes you think Satan went? So King Akhenaten was like one of those prophets that actually went down. These prophets of the one true God, Yahweh, went up to heaven. These prophets of Lucifer, he speaks, King Akhenaten said, I went down, and this is where he showed me, and this is that, and the third. He describes everything, and he's speaking Satan's story on these emerald tablets that cannot be eroded, no nothing. But see, people don't do the research, and all this stuff ties in. Why? Because Satan says how he's going to manipulate through material, how he's going to do this, how he's going to do that. He explains all this stuff to you. And as he explains it to you, all right, you tie it into the scriptures that we read, and it all fits in. You tie it to the Gilgamesh, it all fits in. And then you got your 4 kings, which is in Revelations, and you got all this other stuff that's going on. So we got one other king that's bucking, which is Russia. Russia's not getting in with the world rule. They got China, Iran, and all this other stuff, and their separation. So in the scriptures, we see where we have certain instances where this has been going on for a long time, and it's happening again. So what is the definition of psychotic? Psychotic is an etymology of it. A psychotic means to do something over and over again, expecting a different result. So if I do something over and over again and I dress it different, all right, thinking I'm going to get a different result, that makes me psychotic. That is what Satan has been doing since the beginning of time. That's what technology is. It overcoats and dresses stuff. So it may not look like it was back then. Why? Because we're living in a new age, a new era. That's the excuse. That's the dressing. That's the cover, was actually the same thing. All right, it's just covered up with the fact of the new era, new time technology stuff, but nobody's seeing it. That ties into scripture, that ties into the emerald tablets. But unless you read, and you got to understand something, that the elite believe in this and they're doing this with this technology and all these tablets and the ancient world, but they're with Satan on this side of the wall, then guess what? There is no such thing as you saying, I don't believe it or not, because this is what they're doing to control your emotions, your moods, and the economy and everything else around it. This is why they took the one true God's religion because they knew they can use it politically and economically. And once they used it because that was the moral part of trying to manipulate the world, is using this one true God religion of these people, of this nation, of the Hebrew nation, that way that they were supposed to be taught to teach the other nations ethically. They took it and corrupted it because that was the moral part of the corruption. So you have to understand all this. You have to read this stuff because it's real. There's nothing fake about this. Everything I said, you can go read and you'll see it for yourself. It even gives you a chant at the end of the Emerald Tablets where you say this chant, the yoga and all that meditation stuff. No, and then you get the child that's pure and he'll show you. That's what they're doing. That's what they're trying to do, and people are not seeing it. So with that being said, you'll see even when the world leaders talk, they'll say, oh, and he's being a problem child. Why would you call another country, another region, all right, and you guys are, and you look genetically, they're all genetically intertwined with each other, but then you call them a problem child. Why? Because that spirit and this, that, and third say, hey, like, hey, we had this agreement, and this is what it's all come down to, and now you're the one that's bucking, you're being the problem child. So you have to look at it, but nobody looks deeper into it. You either look too deep into it and you overpass it, or you're not looking deep enough to reach it. So we have to start finding discernment and have to understand the truth, because without the truth, you're not being set free. And I'm not here to fit to anybody's emotional appeal and do all this showing off to excite you. I'm here to speak to you intellectually, all right? And that's the only reason why I'm here. So with that being said, I'm going to show you a piece of footage from John Kerry letting you know what's going on with Russia, the war, and how this is all playing out. So pay attention. Please go over all of my page and the whole 9 yards, because I'm only speaking the truth. It's not racist. It's not anything, because Satan is that good that you can probably think one way when one people who have accepted this whole time and come to find out is this. Remember, lies, perceptions, and illusions is how you manipulate somebody.
However, at the weekend, the US Secretary of State warned Russia and Iran against continued support for Assad.
If Russia and Iran stand as a bloc and allow Assad to simply stiff the process, and we get no transition at all, then it will be clear who the problem children are, and our options will be narrowed, and we will have to make some tough choices.